Dear friends, welcome to this episode of Know Your Author on the Sunday Islander. Today we have with us Dr. Poonam Tripathi, author of The Vulnerable Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Dr. Poonam is an independent researcher who has a PhD from Department of Geography, Delhi School of Economics, University of Delhi. She has worked as assistant professor at Salesian College, Siliguri. Her research interests and publication focus on the Andaman Nicobar Islands. Presently, she is a guest lecturer at Jennaram, Port Blair. Welcome, Dr. Poonam Tripathi to the island.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
Poonam, I would like to know about your engagement with the islands and how the idea of your book on a very special subject on the islands actually originated.
Well, islands have always attracted me, and but what happened? We came to the islands as an MA student in 2003 January, and we were here for a week. But I really liked the place, and then the tsunami happened. And my supervisor at that time was working on disasters in India, and she had written this book called Vulnerable India, which was published in 2008. So that
Yeah.
inspired me. And so, since the interest was on disasters and Andaman faced the disasters, I thought to work on this topic. And actually, I didn't know anyone here, and just this idea cropped up. Why not? Because after tsunami, lot of research was happening in mainland India, like Tamil Nadu and Andhra Pradesh, but there was nothing so much about the social impact in the islands. So I decided to take this on, and that's how I began my PhD. And this book has culminated from the PhD. So, mm,
Okay, your book, The Vulnerable Andaman and Nicobar Islands, I think it's the first full-length book which addresses disasters in the context of vulnerability of Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Okay,
yes, yes.
and you have looked into various aspects of different disasters that happened in the past. Okay, like major disasters that you have mentioned in the book is the epidemics that actually affected the tribes in the islands, and
Mm-hmm.
then World War II,
Two.
and partition of
Vulnerable.
India,
Yeah.
and then I think tsunami.
Tsunami. Yes.
Yeah, these are the four major disasters that you have mentioned in your book, and major portion you have dedicated towards tsunami
So,
and the damage, the response, and the various aspect of tsunami that the effect that happened in the islands in 2004.
four.
Okay, now see, now we have an issue in our hand. Okay, like in the wake of COVID pandemic, especially how do you see the vulnerability of the people here and how much we are able to address it?
Mhm.
And what is the current status of vulnerability in the islands? What do you feel about it?
Okay. Firstly, we need to understand that vulnerability, if I give an analogy, vulnerability is like a seed. Like every seed has a potential to grow into a plant. Now,
Yeah.
each seed carries it within itself, and if given a right environment, it blooms. But in the case of vulnerability, what happens? Each and every person carries the seed of vulnerability within it in a different form. And
Okay.
in case of these external factors which emerge, so the
Yeah.
vulnerability breaks through and the disaster happens. So this vulnerability is never new, it is not imposed. So it is very inherent character, and this character is built through time due to different factors. Now vulnerability can't be only one thing. Vulnerability to earthquake, we can't say it. So the
Yeah.
vulnerability to COVID is not something only COVID. So this COVID, what happened was islands were already vulnerable. So in my book I have traced this vulnerability through time, how the outsiders have created vulnerability for the islands over the years.
Okay.
And islands were actually very vulnerable in 2004 when the tsunami happened. But in the last 14, 15 years, this vulnerability was not addressed in the
Yeah.
wholesome manner, and it
Hmm.
persisted. And in this outbreak of COVID, so this kind of got repeated itself. What happened in epidemics was this large population of Andamanis here were very vulnerable to this outside disease. They had no immunity
Yeah.
to it. The
Yeah.
same thing was repeated here. Islanders, they didn't had the immunity here. And when it started, well, it was contained for few days. Initially, there was no cases, then one
Yeah.
case, then gradually 19 in a day, then
Yeah.
28, and then it just went out of hand. And why
Yeah.
this happened was because the people here, they are not aware of the health as
Yeah.
such, and the entire ecology of the place, it
Hmm.
doesn't address the needs of the people. So
Okay.
we were the hospitals here are ill equipped, and for most cases people go to mainland for their treatment. So now
Okay.
in that scenario, when this disease, which really crumpled the developed world, so our
Hmm.
islands were safe as long as the disease was not here. The moment it arrived, the vulnerability got exposed, and the
Okay.
disaster happened, and so many people were killed. Now,
Yeah.
why are the islands vulnerable? Well, that's a long list, and it
Yeah.
goes on and on every aspect.
Okay. Why do you think vulnerability has to be addressed more than the disaster? Okay. See,
Vulnerability creates disasters.
yeah.
Vulnerability creates disasters.
Okay.
Okay.
So you have actually gone through so many disasters. I mean, that has affected the islands,
Hmm.
and you have a special section on means this
Epidemic. Yes.
epidemic, which actually decimated about 90% of the Great Andaman.
And Great Andaman. Yes.
See, when you went through all these records or the documents on the Great Andamans, when you did your research, what did you find out? Okay, actually, how did that happen, and what is the vulnerability of the tribes right now in the islands?
Okay. The vulnerability of the tribes hasn't changed at all. What it
Okay,
was for the Great Andamanis at that time in the late 19th century, it is the similar for the Jarawas and the Onges at present. I'll
okay,
not say that for so much for Nicobaris, but well, the other tribes. Now,
okay,
what happened? We have to understand what had happened in late 19th century. The British came here. They took over the land of the Andamanis, the best land, in fact, which had a
okay,
lot of water. It has sheltered coast was here. So this was the prime land of the Great Andamanis. The British took it over without giving them uh, any compensation, anything. They just came, they took it up, they started cutting down the trees, they set up a colony here. The
yeah,
islanders were left out. And then obviously one, if someone comes and attacks someone's homes, they
yeah,
actually retaliate. So this is what the Andamanis did. They retaliated.
yeah,
And the British called them Andamanis attacks. They started calling these as attacks, although it was not attack, it was just a measure to take back what was their own.
a kind of a
However,
resistance.
they were just resisting this
Yeah,
encroachment upon their land.
yeah,
But
yeah,
obviously, the tribes were not at par with the British forces, so they collapsed. They could not win against the British, and
yeah,
ultimately they succumbed to it. Now, what happened? Their hunting ground was taken up, so
yeah,
food is very essential. So, what
yeah,
would they have done? So, they started being dependent on the British, and British really exploited this dependency. So they started exploiting the Andamanis in many different ways. They kept them as slaves, they
yeah,
domestic workers. They hired Andamanis in capturing the convicts who were
yeah,
running away into the forest, and instead of it they started feeding them, giving them food. And
okay,
in the whole context, what happened, this relationships of, it was never a relationship of equal, it became a relationship of master and servant, and the
okay,
servants were exploited. And then
yeah,
ultimately sexual exploitation took place.
yeah,
Syphilis came among the Andamanis, and once the syphilis weakened the immunity, the immune system, the way
yeah,
HIV weakens the system, syphilis did the same thing with it. So the simple measles and malaria and little things started affecting
okay,
these population, and they died off. So now, if we look at this relationship, the power politics which happened at that time, and now if you look at here in the present moment, the way Britishers treated Andamanis by setting up homes for them, giving them doles free of cost, giving them foods,
yeah,
and just engaging them in little menial tasks, that is what the present situation is also like.
okay,
Jarawas, they are saying, okay, we are cutting them off. But by
yeah,
cutting them off, it's not a way. They have not been given a choice to live in their own terms. Now, they would love to expand. If in the present scenario,
Yeah.
if the government of India did not establish the settlement here in 1947, if it did not bring in the settlers here, what could have happened? The Jarawas would have taken over the entire territory. They would have expanded everywhere and they would have lived the way they wanted to live.
Yeah.
But now, in this context, what has happened is they are being marginalized further, and their immunity is not developed because they are used to a particular climatic environment. And again, a lot of inbreeding has happened over the centuries. Now, inbreeding has one side effect, is that immune system becomes very weak, because if we look into the genetics part, if there's intermixing of races, then the genes which emerges is very strong one. However, when interbreeding goes on, the weak genes started to propagate. So the population, the tribal population, is very vulnerable. If the disease is introduced there, it will literally kill everyone. It will be very difficult to stop the spread of these outside diseases. In fact, if we look into the data, once this contact was established in 97, in 99 malaria, measles or malaria outbreak took place, and then the others. So we see this has happened every time a contact is established. The tribal suffer, not so much the non-tribal, because we are kind of immune to it, but their immunity is less. So in this COVID scenario also, they are very vulnerable and they need to be protected. And obviously all contacts should be stopped, but that is, I don't think that is
impossible.
possible. That is not possible, because they are dependent on us now. They are dependent completely for medical facilities.
See, you have mentioned major disasters, and there are some minor disasters also. Okay. Now, see, as far as tsunami is concerned, it was a disaster which affected lives were also lost, but it was more on the infrastructure. Okay, it almost the damage
Collapse.
was more to the
Yes.
infrastructure. Okay, now when the government of India or the Andaman Nicobar administration, they have big, huge plans for the islands, infrastructural plans. Okay, like major ports and then airports and many other. Okay, means coastal development of coastal areas and major tourism projects. See, how do you see whether we have addressed the vulnerability or we are creating vulnerability more the islands right now?
We are definitely creating more vulnerability. Island, without understanding what is the need of the island and what are the resources available for the island, when development happens, there is a mismatch. And in case of Andaman Nicobar Islands, we have seen over the years that whatever has been introduced here in the name of development has never succeeded. There have been loopholes, everything. In fact, the resettlement plan which went about here has not succeeded. They wanted to create an agricultural society, but now we see people are selling the agricultural lands. And for the hotel, if you go to Havelock Neil Island, and we see that they are selling their lands. And why is a farmer selling a land? Obviously, the land is not yielding any return. The returns from the land is so low that they are selling it off. So ultimately, all projects which was created here was not addressed completely. Now, we have to identify what are the resources of the island. Once we identify the resources, only then can a proper management plan be implemented. Now, promoting tourism is tourism, all right. Tourism to some extent is okay. People need to know about the island. Definitely, we need to put it on the forefront. But this large scale tourism infrastructure is not feasible at all. Because, firstly, we have to remember tourism, as we say, is a very fickle industry. A major pandemic happened and everything collapsed. A war happens, there will be no tourists. If a recession takes place, there will be no tourists. So ultimately, who are we addressing? And as a tourist destination, people will visit there only once. They can't come back to the same place over and over again. Someone, let's suppose, sitting in Calcutta, will decide, okay, we'll visit Andaman this year, next year we'll go to Goa, then Kerala, then Himachal. There's so many places to explore. Why will they keep on coming back? So if we want a tourist people coming here, so we need to create something for the island which will keep people back, coming to it. So that cannot be done. So ultimately, for instead of going in for large scale tourism, what is here already, only that needs to be preserved. That's my opinion. Whatever
Okay.
is already there in place, only that needs to be set up and preserved, and no new plans for tourism is not feasible. Instead, something in which the local people can be engaged. Now over here, what is happening is a great disconnect is happening. Now when these hotels are being built up, now we saw the Taj came up here. If
Yeah.
you go there, if you make a list of people who are employed there, all the top notch, the
Mhm.
main managerial part is held
Mm.
by people who are trained from outside, and they are outsiders here. They
Yeah.
don't belong to the island. Only the menial jobs have gone to the island: laundry, housekeeping, cook. So
Yeah.
this is, are people only capable of these jobs? That is what the question is. Can't
Yeah.
we offer them something very well enough? We need to train the islanders here. We need to train the young people. Like I teach in JNRM, and I
Yeah.
see so much potential in the children here. They are so creative and they have enthusiasm to work. But the problem is they are not getting an outlet. And anywhere you go, one simple example, any department you visit, PBMC, anywhere, and they always keep on saying there's staff shortage, we can't do, there's staff shortage. On the
Yeah.
other hand, you see the unemployment rates are so high here in islands. Why can't
Mhm.
there be a match here? So these little, firstly, we have to look after the needs of the people here. Only
Yeah.
then can we cater to the outsiders. Tourism industry always caters to the outsiders, and it is the people who don't belong to the islands who will benefit in it, because in the
Okay.
construction, labors will be imported from outside, and then again the important post will go to the outsiders. The
Yeah.
revenues will be collected by the people who are the outsiders. So how is it going to benefit the island is something which I fail to understand.
Okay.
So, and the
So,
yes.
yeah. See, actually, we have moved much ahead, and that we cannot go back now in many aspects. So, as far as the tribes are concerned, or even the way tourism is promoted in the islands. Okay, people have already embraced tourism as a major employment option in the islands. Okay, now is it possible that we can make it sustainable? And do you think whether when we talk about fragile ecology of the islands, and we talk about ecotourism and sustainable tourism, do they actually do that, or is it just some terms which we use just to say that no, islands have got ecotourism?
It is a farce. It is literally, I can say it here on camera, it is a farce. I
Yeah.
went to Middle Andaman last year somewhere, and we went to one of these beaches. I think it was the Amkunj beach, most probably there. So they have
Yeah.
made this ecotourism site there,
Mm.
but hardly anything, only making benches out of logs, and
Yeah.
creating these what is swings out of logs is not ecotourism. There were
Yeah.
plastics strewn across. There were
Yeah.
beer bottles everywhere.
Yeah.
The
Hmm.
It was stinking. It was there was no upkeep of it. And then anyone can come there. Anyone can go out. There was no checks, no balances, no one to look after it. So, well, maybe if some dignitaries come, they inaugurated it at that particular time. Perhaps Amkunj Beach looked very appealing and very eco-friendly, but last year June when I went there, it was definitely not eco-friendly. So this eco-tourism also, any tourism will have impact on the ecology. Any tourism, if you keep
Yeah.
your foot there, it brings in hundreds and thousands of bacteria in the place, which kind
Yeah.
of affects the local ecology. It impacts that place. So
Yeah.
ecotourism again should be all right. Now, as you've said, we cannot go back on it. So much has been invested in it. So now what needs to be done is at least one can regulate the number of tourists coming here instead of
Yeah.
opening it up for everyone. So what is
Hmm.
happening is the island is losing its charm. Why
Yeah.
people came to Andamans in the first place in the 1990s? Because this was a place which was at that time still untouched, and it was very pristine. I still
Yeah.
remember I was in class 5 or 6, and my friend's father had come to the island on some work. He was a lawyer, so he had come here under the Calcutta thing, and she had come along, and then she took back the photographs. At that time, we had those albums, and when she
Okay.
bought this album, I was so mesmerized by it. It was so pure, so beautiful, and that was why it attracted us. But now when someone comes here, there is nothing which attracts. Neil Island beaches are full of these dinghies and the mess around. Havelock Island is same, everywhere constructing these little these souvenir shops across,
Yeah.
and the beauty is lost. And then why will people come back again? And they will not come back. Now if you ask them, in fact, in a friend of mine, after they
Yeah.
got married, I said, why don't you come to Andaman? It's a nice place. They said, no, it's better to go to Bali. What's there in Andaman which is not there in Bali? So Bali has historical sites, and also Bali, and it was in fact very cheaper there to go there. So
Yeah.
island, for the tourists to come here, it has to preserve what was its pristine environment. And this ecotourism, which on paper it's happening, but in reality it is affecting the beaches and the ecology thoroughly. So people, I don't feel that they will come back again. So if we regulate the number of tourists coming here, and we need to have very stringent laws here, very stringent laws that uh, you can't pollute this place. At least you can't, you are polluting it already enough by your presence, but please
Mhm.
don't pollute it with the things that you are bringing in here. So at least that needs to be checked, and very stringently it needs to be checked. Over here people will eat, and it is in fact the tourists who come here, they litter literally. They don't care of it. They will have things, chips and everything, whatever, everything comes in a package, and the
Yeah.
package is everywhere. So that is it. In
And
front of
the
JNR, if we Marina
yeah.
Park now, it's better, but
Mm.
when it was open, the
Yeah.
see there, when during the low tide, you can actually see what garbage is dumped there.
See, coming back to the book, uh, you did a lot of efforts to find so much about the disaster that has happened in the islands and compiled it with so much of data. And it's a very useful book for whoever is interested in Andaman and Nicobar Islands.
Thank you.
Can you share your experience about the whole process that went through while compiling the book?
Yes, it was actually, again, as I said, disasters attracted. And when I chose this area, I had this in my mind. It's a small geographical area, and I would not need to do a lot of work. And in a small area, I could do a good work. But when I started exploring the place, firstly, it has such a complicated history, which is not shared. I don't think any other part of the country has this complexity which the island face. The history is there, no doubt. If you look at Delhi, it's so old, it has a lot of history. But this place is filled with complexities, and to unravel it was really very difficult. And it took me, therefore, so much of data happened because I was looking at one thing and then the others. Because I also came from the background thinking that earthquakes and cyclones are very common here and they will be a disaster.
Yeah.
They would have caused a lot of damage here. But when I started looking for data, I went to disaster management, I looked into the historical record, archives, everywhere. It just said the occurrence happened. It occurred on this date, this date, this date, but nothing associated. Hardly some trees fell down or some railings fell down.
Yeah.
Storm surge was so high, but hardly any damages were being reported. And so it dawned on me that earthquake island is very prepared for the earthquakes, especially the houses which were made here. So if you look into the tsunami earthquake again, it was 9.1 at the epicenter, and Port Blair around area experienced at about 7. The magnitude of shaking was about 6 to 7. In that also, the buildings did not collapse. Buildings stood still, the things collapsed. It was
Yeah.
a tsunami which actually damaged the infrastructure. So
Yeah.
now when I looked into it, so it emerged that okay, earthquakes are also not causing disasters in the island, cyclones are not causing disasters. So what was it? Because then this question happened: if not earthquake happened, so then why the tsunami claims so much? why was it that a wave which just moved, if you simply look at it, what is tsunami? It's nothing to be scared about. It is the sea waves which moved into 1-2 kilometers inside from its actual border. High tide line is somewhere this. In a tsunami, the waves came in much to the interior. So what happened that once the wave came in 1 kilometer inside, so much damage happened. And it was not new. It had happened in 1941. It had happened in 1883. In fact, recently I read somewhere again about this 1883 tsunami. It said that not much damage happened, even in Car Nicobar. Although at that time also they were staying at the coast, yet
Yeah.
not much damage happened. So then I started thinking, why? And then the vulnerability angle emerged, that there was something which was really making them weak. And it was covered. It was, on the surface, it doesn't emerge. If you look at the statistics which island produces, on the comparative scale with India, Ireland always ranks better. Its GDP, its per capita income is pretty high. And then
Yeah.
again, on medical statistics, education
Yeah.
statistics, everywhere, Ireland figures amongst the good UTs. But then why this happened? So that's how I kind of looked into it, and this vulnerability emerged. And the whole process, was a very tedious. It took me about 6 years to complete the PhD. I would
Okay.
not say that entire time was academic work, because in between I got married in Andaman, and so this long distance Delhi was college was in
So
Delhi. I was here,
yeah.
so it took time, but then yeah. And when the book came in, I was very happy. In fact, it
Yeah.
felt that when Routledge accepted it for publication, I was very happy, and I thought it's because before Routledge accepted it, I always felt that whatever I'd done, is it correct? I was not very confident about my work myself. So, but when Routledge accepted it, it really boosted up my morale that, well, I have done a good work. So
Yeah.
that's
See, the book basically addresses the vulnerability of the islands, of the people here. Okay, more than disaster. Okay, and do you think whether we have developed any kind of resilience towards such kind of disasters? But
no.
so let's not talk about World War II, or see, we have already seen after an epidemic. Now we are having pandemic also in the islands. Okay, what do you think about tsunami? Okay, tsunami and earthquake and tsunami. Okay, that kind of are we prepared for another tsunami? Whether our infrastructure, there is any major change that you can find on ground if there is another tsunami?
The only thing that I can find now is that they are installing tsunami warning systems. Now,
Yeah,
tsunami warning will alert about the tsunami. It will not control the tsunami. Tsunami is
yeah,
still going to come and is
yeah,
going to hit the islands. Now, what they have done in the resettlement is that they have brought it back five inwards. Okay, the settlements have come inwards; they are not on the coast. But uh, but in Port Blair, if we look at it, it is still at the coast, and other places also. So perhaps maybe the tsunami would not damage the houses so much this time. I hope it does not. But with earthquake, I can't say, because now what is happening is so much of rules are being flouted. And
yeah,
another thing I just read couple of years back, that municipal said that they would regularize the illegal colonies which are already there, the settlements which are already there, they would regularize it. Well, I feel that this move is very bad move, because this gives impetus to the people to illegally build, because they are in the mindset that if we stay in a place for 10 years illegally, of course either we are going to get a compensation, or we will be regularized. So that is what is motivating people to move into. Encroachments are happening everywhere,
yeah,
and and everyone's aware of it, but it's
yeah,
now when what happens on paper, everything is good. Like on paper, these tsunami structures, the structures that they have built, constructed after so much of engineering, thought has gone
yeah,
into it, building these structures, they were built to be a very resistant structure, good structures in fact. But what has happened, people have modified it, because once they started living in it, and I have been to these tsunami shelters, there aren't any shelves in the rooms which they have made. Now any person living in a house, in a room, need shelves, so they have constructed it. Again, the window seal of these windows were very small, so during rainfall water used to come in, so they have what modified the structure. People have modified the structure according to their needs, as any individual would do to their houses. But now these modifications
Yeah.
have made these structures vulnerable. So in case of another earthquake of that severe magnitude, chances are that they would collapse. And well, fire, these structures are very prone to fires, and we have seen in the last 15 years about I don't know, about 15, 10 or 15 houses have been gutted down in fire. In some in Nicobar, some in Little Andaman, some here. So fire is happening everywhere because these structures are made of wood, and they have made concealed wiring, which is again not
Okay.
suitable something for the islands. Yet
Okay.
the proposal was passed, and so what is happening is people can't see where the the wires are broken, and it is really sparking. And
You're talking about the tsunami permanent shelters. Okay.
yes,
Uh,
yes, yes, yes.
it's not just about the tsunami permanent shelter. That's very
One aspect, yes,
numbers
yeah,
are not very
hmm,
high. But
hmm.
as far as construction in the islands is happening now, okay, other constructions, okay. Do you think they are flouting laws or regulations? And one more thing, what I would like to point out is, if you have gone through the master plan, okay, the master plan itself is flawed.
Hmm,
Okay,
hmm.
it has superimposed so much of means the zoning, everything is now all superimposed, where already the land is under some other use.
Others.
Okay, like in a residential area, you have superimposed a park, or an industrial means industrial area. Okay, in a residential area, so there are so many flaws in the uh, master plan.
Plan.
So people will violate it because master plan doesn't support them.
Hmm,
Okay,
hmm,
so the violation is a kind of overcoming the flawed master plan.
hmm.
What do you think about it?
Yeah, it is happening actually. The plan which was put into place, uh, again, master plan needs to take into account the people's need, and they do
Yeah,
publish it in the paper that you come up with suggestions and proposals. But how many of us are actually aware of it, and how many of us would take the initiative to go and at least put, make the administration aware of it, that this is the problem with it. And because before making the plan, actually the problem becomes is before making the plan, uh,
yeah,
a thorough ground level survey needs to be done, and only then a plan can be made. Without knowing what the existing is, if we make
mm,
something, it all creates a problem. So without, we have to understand first what was happening on the ground. So this was not done, and therefore these problems have emerged, and it
yeah,
will emerge because again, with the new plans and with the smart city mission coming in. So smart
yeah,
city, I feel that smart city is not with smart infrastructure, it is with smart people. If the people are
okay,
smart, and smartness doesn't mean having great education or anything. No, smartness is simply having the common sense of doing things the way it should be done, and
yeah,
caring for the others, and living, because understanding that one's action has repercussions on each and every one of us. So we
yeah,
need to be in this together. So instead of making a smart city, first we need to focus on the smart, making people aware and making people smart, and the city
mm,
will itself become smart. So
yeah,
I don't think in the developed country anywhere they ever had a smart city mission or something. They
yeah,
planned ahead. They planned ahead, and therefore they are where they are. And in our country, and especially in the islands, we don't plan. We never plan for the future, and we never take our learn our lessons from the past. So what is happening in the islands is something beyond comprehension. This is,
yeah,
I literally fail to understand what is happening. And as per the great big infrastructures that have been constructed, Well, infrastructures have been constructed. I suppose the engineering agencies who have constructed it have followed the laws, have followed the designs, and have followed the things honestly and efficiently. But then there
Yeah.
is an aspect called maintenance. If the maintenance is not there, a thing will collapse. So if they make a road, they will not maintain it. Road is going to collapse. So this is a very basic understanding.
Yeah.
As I said, it's a common sense. So focus should be somewhere on maintenance also. Instead of just creating these infrastructures, maintenance aspect should be looked into it. Instead of
Yeah.
just pushing the blame, this road will PWD will make, this another panchayat will make, and in this,
Yeah.
people suffer and the road suffer. That's it.
No, that's
Yeah.
how the whole development paradigm is there in our islands or in our country. Okay, like we create infrastructure and then we don't manage it.
Know how to
Okay,
manage that.
we are very good at creating infrastructure, but
Yes,
very bad in maintaining it. And so that's what happens. So the utility of most of the infrastructure is not there. Okay,
not there.
people don't
Right.
use it properly. And see, if you look at the bus stops, okay,
Hmm.
most of the bus stops have turned into cow sheds and all,
Yes, yes, yes.
right? People don't use it because there is no sufficient, it's not properly constructed, or
Hmm.
the utility is not there. Okay, so that's how most of our constructions are. The utility value is very low, and maintenance also is very low. So these are things, which is there throughout the country. I think we are just following the same pattern here in the islands. Okay, so
Because we have needs.
yeah. Yeah, we're going beyond your book. Okay, like see,
Hmm.
this is a very interesting book. Okay, like viewers also to see the book. Okay, this is the book, and it's a voluminous book with so much of contents, tables, figures, maps, and diagrams. It is useful for students of geography, disaster management, climate and environmental studies, history, sociology. So many things are covered in this book. It's a very interesting read because normally we read a lot of books. When you read books on the islands, it's more about the history. Okay, this is the first time I've seen a book on disasters, specifically on this subject, and the kind of response that were there in the past. Okay, and going beyond the book, tell me, are you working on any new project now? Like, are continuing your work on disasters? Okay, so many things are happening now. Are you planning something?
I'm working, looking. I've taken a break from it because after doing it, as I said, this took 6 years. So I was
Yeah,
completely exhausted. So I've taken a break from the research and gone into teaching. Earlier I taught at Siliguri also, and then now in JNRM. So I'm
yeah,
teaching, but some things are brewing in my mind, and I suppose I'm going to take it on.
yeah,
Somewhere about the one aspect of hazard this I've not looked, that I've not taken into the book is the fire, the
okay,
aspect of the fire hazard, and with the recent fire, the meal at the meal. So I'm
yeah,
quite intrigued at looking into the fire aspect of the city, where why is it
okay,
happening, and my husband being in the fire services,
okay,
so I'm aware of it, that people would say that and place like Andaman will not have fire because it rains, it's a humid
yeah,
area, but which is far from truth here. And
yeah,
in fact, what I've come across in my little research, not research as such, just talking with people around. I was at Diglipur, and there when I spoke to the local people there, so they said that people burn forest. They are really igniting the forest at times. Now, I don't know how much truth is there in their thing, but
yeah,
then they do communicate. People burn it out and then they cultivate. So unchecked fires are going on across, but
yeah,
again, there's lack of data, and since if it is, if your argument is not backed by a data, it doesn't hold the authenticity. So the major problem which I'm facing in looking into any other disaster now is the lack of data. So that is
okay,
something. And then other things, I suppose one interesting area of study is the education system of the islands,
yeah,
which is very unique in different mediums. And then when
yeah,
the students
yeah,
all come to the college, it becomes a task for the teacher to make them understand in different languages. And
Yeah.
so that's something very interesting about the island, which I want to look at.
Yeah.
These are
There are
some
so many positives also in
very,
the island. Yeah.
yes,
So many
it's a
positives in
beautiful
the island.
place.
Yeah. Yeah.
Beautiful
It's
place
not,
with good people, beautiful people.
yeah. It's nice talking to you, Poonam. It is very, see, I would suggest people to read the book and understand the past of our islands, how we have gone through different disasters and what were our response. And we can actually assess the current situation based on the past if we know it. So
Yes,
it will be helpful for students as well as the islanders to read this book and understand their own islands, because it's time we read about the islands, because
yes.
the data is compiled, everything is in a readable format. Okay, so you have
I
to,
just I just have one request through this
yeah,
medium. I would request, especially the students,
yeah,
that know your island. You belong to this place. Because when I teach in class, if I ask one question, how many of you have visited the Ross Island? More than 50% of the students will not raise their hands. And I
yeah,
feel so sad. This, I don't know why, but at least Ross Island is just across. One can visit. I'm not talking about going the length and breadth of the island, but at least some places which are around here to know the
yeah,
history. It's very
yeah,
important. If you look at the youth hostel, if you look at this Browning Club and these places here, one should know what has happened here, how much
yeah,
things have happened. And
yeah.
Andaman history, after doing so much research, I can conclude that cellular jail is not Andaman history. Cellular jail is a very important part of Andaman history, but
But
it
it's
is
not
not
the,
the complete.
it's not,
It's not the
yeah,
complete history. So, if
yeah.
1850 cellular jail got constructed in 1905, I
And
think.
six, yes, six, yeah,
656, yes.
yeah,
And people, this colony was established here in 1858. So from 1858 to 1906, what was happening here? What kind of people came in here? That is
yes.
something that we need to be aware of.
Very interesting thing to study and understand that, because the whole focus has now come to cellular jail. When you talk about Andaman, they talk
Yeah,
about not even Kalapan, it's about cellular jail. Okay, it's before cellular jail also Andaman Nicobar Islands was there, and there
had
were
a
people
history.
here who actually made these islands inhabitable for people who came later.
Yes,
So
yes,
their
yes.
contribution cannot be we
Overlooked.
cannot
Yes.
ignore that and neglect that, and that's a very important subject can deal in the future also. So thank you very much, Poonam, for taking time and
Thank,
talking to us about your views on the islands, the vulnerability in the islands, and about your book. Thank you very much. All
thank
the
you for
best.
having me here. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yes.